This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, gang? Happy Tuesday and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you. We've got a fun show coming up. We got a big game tonight for the Sea Bears. And as big of a game as it is for the team, it's going to maybe be an even bigger crowd. The upper deck is open at Canada Life Center. And very, very nice of Coach Mike Taylor to join us on a game day to tee up tonight and just talk about the season that they've had. It's been a wild season for the Sea Bears. I mean, if you recall last year, first year, everyone loving the product, which hasn't changed. But they didn't change their roster at all last season. Been a very different year for the Sea Bears with Byron Mullins and Teddy Buckets both leaving, way more player movement, and the team sort of finding their way in the aftermath of all of that, and now on the verge of clinching a playoff spot tonight, but still with the hopes that this won't be the last CEBL game at Canada Life Center this year, and the Sea Bears can clinch a home game. There's lots of work to be done if that is going to happen. We'll get to it with Coach Mike Taylor a little bit later on. Needless to say, with the hockey downtime happening, we are all over the Canadian Football League. We'll talk Bombers, Argos, as well as everything happening around the league. And last night, Zach Caleros' play, Paul LaPolice coming up. And if you haven't already, folks, particularly for those of you that are on YouTube that missed Lapo the last time, do us a favor. We want him to continue to love coming on with us because we have directed a lot of our YouTube viewers and listeners over to his channel to give him a sub. He's at 920 right now. We want to get him to 1,000 today if possible. So if you haven't already, go over to Paul LaPolice. Remis will throw the link in the chat. Give him a sub. And he's doing some great breakdowns. Did a big thing on Pokey Wilson's monster game a couple weeks ago. So Lapo coming up as well. And we will get into a little bit of the Jets off season, as well as some other topics with Mike McIntyre, who will join us. And, of course, Coolbet lines coming up. And our Assiniboia Downs picks. And this is a very important day to make our picks, to have good picks today, because we are at the track tonight with our winners from our Pick'em contest over the last couple weeks. So really looking forward to seeing everybody that won. And we actually were able to do a draw for one other guest who just entered each and every day. So I know Joey Panks was a winner. Cowboy is coming tonight. Gregory, who, by the way, stole the show last night on the Bomber Coaches Show with an epic GFL call. And Remis and myself will be there. Joey Panks, and I believe he's bringing his tag team partner from the Steinbach WST crew, the Gitch, who's already in chat and already fired up. So anyways, looking forward to seeing our winners tonight down at Assiniboia Downs. Lots to get to. We're going to bring Michael Remis in here in just a minute. But let me quickly give a shout out to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Tomorrow, after WST, another episode of CFL 110. If you haven't checked it out, it's myself and Jeff Hamilton, brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. So stick around tomorrow after the show for the latest tour around the Canadian Football League with myself and Hammer. We also want to thank, of course, Coolbet, Princess Auto, Manitoba Battery, Consolidated Supply and Rollies Transfer, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, the Beer Can, Next Door Winnipeg, and Next Door on Sherbrooke, and of course Hoagie Boys, the Gold Eyes, Aikens Lake, Wilderness Lodge. Cannot wait to get out there. Assiniboia Downs, and Breezy Bend as the Manitoba Amateur continues. We'll give you an update on that a little bit later on. And a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Remis, what's going on? Are you getting a lot of you might want to mute that mic if you're not going to use it, because it is giving us some noise. What's up? Would you care to join us?
Just making sure everything is working here, Huss. It's making sure they can see.
Thing that happens. But as we look to improve our stream capability, I've got fiber going into the building today. So I know I did a confusion the other day with something up with this laptop, and this is the replacement laptop after the laptop that got melted at the draft. Well, whatever it was 14 months ago. So we're actually here together in the same room today at the real WST headquarters at Chateau Remis. I'm seeing some mutes.
It's temporary. It's
okay,
fine.
we're good to go. We're good to go. So anyways, there's been a little bit more going on behind the scenes today. But Remis, I think we are on the air. I think people can hear us.
Yes.
And I think it's go time on WST.
Yeah, we're here. I'm pumped. It's a weird time of year. No sports. We had the All-Star break, slowest week of the year. The Bombers, they're done. We're waiting for them to, see what they have against the Argos. But I think it's Olympic fever. You're starting to get it, Huss. Starting later this week, opening ceremonies. I saw LeBron James. Is he the flag bearer for Team USA? This is what we have right now, Huss. MLB trade deadline. I'm not sure what else. I mean, you just talked to Dusty about what they're going to be talking for Oilers topics. Slim pickings. Although there was a couple hockey topics I saw that aren't your traditional. What's the Mount Rushmore of this, or what changes would you make if you were commissioner for the day?
Well, I joked. Dusty said, "Well, Calgary's getting a new arena." I'm like, "Wow, we can get a good 45 seconds out of that."
I was like, "What's there to talk about there? They're getting a new arena. Like, you live in Edmonton. I mean, that's great. I don't know how that would be a topic on any other show outside of Calgary."
Yeah. Well, listen. I mean, it is a big story. I mean, certainly for Calgary more than anywhere else. But anytime you get new buildings, I mean, I went to the Jets Flames opening game of the season last year in the Dome, and I mean, it is. I don't want to say it's a dump, but it's antiquated. Let's put it politely. I mean, it's a place that's seen a lot of great hockey over a long time, but it's time to move into, the next century. So
I went to a game there like 2011. I felt like I was in the Winnipeg Arena, and that was 13 years ago. And the Winnipeg Arena hasn't been around since what was
2004.
2004. So. Yeah, I think antiquated is a polite way of putting it.
Yeah, so listen, it's big for the Flames, though. And I mean, for them, they're at a point right now where, and this really started a couple summers ago, I mean, with the exodus of Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, they've traded away a lot of the core of that team. They did sign guys like Nazem Kadri, who's still around, and obviously made the Huberdeau trade and signed him to that $10.5 million contract that I'm sure they can't wait to see expire. But these next couple of seasons for Calgary, I think, is really going to sort of be rebuilding. The plan is that this building will open in the 27-28 season. And, for Calgary, if we're talking about windows to be competitive, I think that's sort of where they're shooting for right now. But, I mean, listen, congratulations to everyone to get it done. Great news for the fans in Calgary, and for those of us that like to travel to see our team on the road, or are going to be in Calgary. I mean, a brand new venue will go a long, long way to making going to see the Flames, even if they're not a particularly competitive team, a better spot to do it. Edmonton's got that beautiful rink right now. And it is sort of funny, Reem, when you look around, our building, Canada Life Center, it's now 20 years old. And you think about what the lifetime of these arenas are. And it's not like the Winnipeg Jets need a bigger arena. But you would wonder what they could do, even if you were building another 15,000-seat arena with a little bit more room to give fans a little bit more room and seats. But I don't think that's a conversation we're going to be having in Winnipeg anytime soon. So we'll get to the Bombers in just a minute. As I mentioned, big one for the Sea Bears tonight. And we were going to touch on with Mike Taylor. I mean, he's got an incredible FIBA background. 8 years as the coach of Poland, 4 years as the assistant coach of Czech Republic. And I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on the upcoming tournament. But I am interested, and this is kind of like a first off. We might do another Why Not question of the day a little later on in the chat. But I do wonder if people are excited and fired up for the Olympics. I saw Derek Schmidt mentioning in chat that he didn't really even know that it was happening. Like, the games start tomorrow. There's soccer and there's rugby sevens. Rugby sevens, by the way, is something I'm really looking forward to watch. Where are you at, Reem? I mean, I think I'm personally quite excited for it to start just because this is traditionally the slowest time of the sports calendar. And it's going to give us some current topical things to get to on the program. And I think there's some legitimate excitement about things like our basketball team, our women's soccer team, and, all the other athletes like Winnipeg's Tyler Zlotchuk and Skylar Park that have been competing. I mean, it's always really cool to focus on some of these things that we don't very much for the other 4 years. And I do wonder if this will be a bigger Olympics this year, just because it's in Paris. The time zones are a little bit better for people watching. Where are you at?
Well, in my household, Huss, my household is a gymnastics household, so I've been gearing up for gymnastics. My wife is huge. She listens to, we're into football. She's into gymnastics. She's listening to the gymnastics podcast. I'm PVRing all the U.S. competitions, and unfortunately, the Canadian team isn't as accessible. But Ellie Black is a Canadian Olympic veteran who will be returning for the Canadian team. But so we're very, very psyched in my household. Gymnastics, number one, Simone Biles. How's she going to do? She's back, returning, has a big Netflix show. And as you mentioned, the team sports, basketball, soccer, huge. One that was really big last time, skateboarding. It's some 14-year-old kid just tearing it up on the skateboarding. A new one, or back in its second Olympic sport, climbing. I like watching Ninja Warrior and stuff like that. So I think, that is exciting. And, you have the standard track and field. Again, Netflix is doing a great job with these sports documentaries. They had the Simone Biles one. Ken mentioned receiver last week on the show. I watched episode 1 with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle. It was excellent. And they have another one, sprint. So track and field. And then you have Andre DeGrasse in there, Aaron Brown as well. So, and then swimming is huge too. So I think the classic ones with some new ones. I am excited. It is in Paris. It's going to be on during our show.
Have you heard that the swimmers are going to be swimming in the Seine River?
I've heard something about that. That's not they're not going to be in a pool.
All the French people are saying this is not from what I'm hearing from Parisians talking about the swimmers and where they're swimming. It sounds like it would be as if we were hosting the Pan Am Games and said, okay, great. The 800-meter swim is in the red, and it's starting at the Forks. Which is, I don't know. That'll be a topic. There's always some controversies in and around the Olympic Games. But, you mentioned climbing and a fan of American Ninja Warrior. I couldn't help but think, listen, if breakdancing can be in, why not the most extreme elimination challenge? We need Kenny Blankenship and Guy Ledouche as the Olympic commentary team for the most groundbreaking television show maybe in our lifetime, that did create a whole bunch of these other challenge shows and competitions. But if you're old enough to remember the most extreme elimination challenge, bless the Japanese for their creativity when it comes to television and television programming. That is something that actually would have been an amazing. I mean, that's some sort of an obstacle course, though, like literally like American Ninja Warrior. I mean, that is just as much of a competition as so many of the traditional sports. And as we add in things like breakdancing, I'm kind of surprised we haven't got to some super CrossFit competition that involves all of that.
Yeah, most extreme elimination challenge at the Olympics. I would certainly tune in for that.
I might travel for it.
You know, if you want to talk about sports that aren't in, you know, because breakdancing is, I'm kind of surprised MMA, you know, you have boxing. MMA is a global sport. You see all these UFC fighters. Maybe, you know, because boxing, they have the headgear and they don't want people like actually trying to kill each other in a ring. So maybe, you know what, maybe I take that back. But sure, you know, obstacle course is getting huge. I know kids are getting into that as well. So
okay,
we'll see.
Leslie Mischuk, and I could be corrected here. He said not sure, but I think they mean they will swim in the Seine for the triathlon.
Yes.
Not the short swimming events. Well, the triathlon is what we care about, because our guy, Peg City's own Tyler Mislawchuk, looking to get onto the podium as he has battled through. I mean, if you missed that interview with Tyler, is that one up individually on
I should put it up. I didn't do it, but this is a good.
This would be a good time. This would definitely be a good time to throw it up there. He's talked about some of the challenges that he's had, you know, with some injury coming back. And then, you know, when you're flying around the world for a race that because of a weather phenomenon gets canceled, it can be sort of like 4,000 miles and, you know, 40, 50 hours of travel around the world to not do anything. It's frustrating. But anyways, we'll be following Tyler at his event, all of our Canadians, as we get ready for Paris. Opening ceremonies are on Friday. And as I mentioned, rugby sevens and soccer gets going tomorrow and on Thursday. I don't have it in front of me, but our women's soccer team gets going very early. We wait until, well, a little bit until the basketball gets going, at least for Canada. But Canada looking really good with all that stacked NBA talent. So a lot of Olympics over the course of the next little bit. I mean, this is something that we'll be following it. I think a lot of people will be watching it in the evenings, and we'll talk about the big stories as we go through. But Bombers right now getting ready for Toronto. That is a top story. And there hasn't been a lot in and around the Jets as of late, Reem. I do wonder at what point we're going to hear a little bit more about the future of Patrick Laine. And, you know, if you've searched or you've seen, like, Laine has actually popped up on trending topics on X as of late. And, you know, sometimes it is, you know, kind of articles or something that's written either in Europe or outside of the market that gets picked up. I will say this. I can't remember, as long as we've been doing this, anything that has gotten people legitimately excited, like our conversations with a few of our guests heading into the draft of where Laine goes, and the fact that it has been reported that he would certainly be very open to coming back to Winnipeg. And like before even that happened, I'd said on the show, I've said, you know, like, listen, let's think about where Patrick is right now, what he's been through last year. And if you look back at the last, you know, as time as a pro, the best times he ever had was in Winnipeg. And he really did like it here. And I think we all know that it was a lot of internal things that ended up, you know, driving him out of the city. And I think about what he did. Like the last game that Patrick Laine played as a Winnipeg Jet, Didn't he have 2 goals, including the overtime winner in that game against Calgary? In the playoffs against the St. Louis Blues, when so many guys completely checked out. He didn't. I mean, I remembered him. I remember Brian Little. I remember Buff as being the guys that were sort of there in that final game. So if that was possible, like, I'm hearing comments, and again, take this for what it's worth, that the ask from Columbus is not going to be big. I mean, this could actually be something in and around a mid-round draft pick. The big challenge for the Winnipeg Jets, that would be, even if all parties were on board, and that was the cost, is how you work that into the cap. Because as much as the Jets do have cap room, what were we talking about last week? What is Cole Perfetti's next deal going to be? And you know that there's conversations between Kurt Overhart and the Jets. Is it going to be a 2-year bridge deal that gives them a little bit more money to spend? Or are they going to pay now and get 6 or 7 years on the docket? So, I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities when it comes to this. But it is a topic that has gotten more people talking, and more people hit me up. Like when I'm out at the bar or at the Bomber game or whatever, I've had more people ask me about Laine this summer than maybe anything else. And honestly, when you think about the time that he spent here and what he did as a Winnipeg Jet, I can't say that I'm surprised. And everyone loves a redemption story. And can you imagine? I mean, I don't want to get people, or myself, frankly, too excited about the thought of it, because I think that it's highly unlikely, granted. But if that were to happen and it ended up going positively for the next couple of years, I mean, it would be so huge for the team, the community, the fan base. So I will tell you this: I am still holding out hope, and I'm waiting for any mention of the latest on Laine. And if there's a potential to make something happen with the Winnipeg Jets, certainly hope that is seriously considered, because I think there'd be a lot of positives out of it. Not only, you know who would love it the most, Remis? Davis Payne, who's in charge of that Jet power play. It'd look a little bit better with 29 out there, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, a couple of things have to happen if that were to come true. First of all, I think his salary is very high, so they would have to figure out how to work that out. But he has to come off the player assistance program, and then they can trade him. And I don't know if he's working his way, but Dr_Reef on X has putting together put out some Instagram stories, I think, of him doing workouts with NFL players.
Yeah, with the NFL guys. Where
Miami.
was that?
I'm getting it all set to bring up here. But here he is. One sec. Here he is doing some, I don't know what you call this thing. He was going back and forth, working on those lateral movements, and among other workouts here with NFL players. So, we'll see. You hope for the best. You hope he can return to the NHL and be the player he was. I think it's low that it would be here, but I think you bring it up and people want to dream.
Yeah, well, as I said, he still has a ton of fans here, and we've seen the best of him. And if Winnipeg, the city, a team that's very different right now, Blake Wheeler's not here, he's not the captain anymore, could welcome him back with open arms and help him get back to the player that he was when he was a Winnipeg Jet. What that might mean for the future of the player, the team, the franchise. I mean, it is certainly is a fun thing to talk about. So, I mean, I said, oh, Josh is good. Okay, perfect. We're gonna have we will talk a little. Blue Jays and Major League Baseball overall. Josh Goldberg's gonna pop on with us a little bit later on in the program. But coming up right now, right shortly, we're gonna get to Coach Lapo. And as I mentioned, Paul LaPolice on YouTube. Give him a sub. Always fun to talk about Bombers with Lapo. And listen, there's a lot to get to. A lot of questions. If you heard the coaches show last night, people are wondering what's up with this offense. But I'll give Mike O'Shea credit. There is absolutely no panic from the head coach. Certainly no satisfaction with their 2-5 record right now, but still a lot of football left to be played. And we'll be getting to that with Lapo in just a minute. Again, CFL 110 is tomorrow, brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. Folks, if you are looking to completely revolutionize your garage and turn it into a place where you've got a heck of a lot more room, it's clean, it's organized, and not only can you work and store things in there, but maybe have the fellas over to enjoy the big game, Garage Living Winnipeg can help you out. Our pal Pat Kanuga moved on from a 20-plus year career at CBC for a real labor of love. Pat's an old-time car guy and has been working and living in garages part-time for most of his life. And what Garage Living does is they come in and, put in polyaspartic floor coatings, high-quality made-in-Canada metal cabinets, slat wall casings, and completely change this entire area, which not only can change your operation and your life, frankly, but also adds value to your home. Now, the response from people listening to this podcast and YouTube show has been great. And give them a call at 999-1234 to find out what is possible. Pat would love to come in for a free in-garage consultation and kind of see what you're working with and give you an idea about what it would cost and what they'd be able to do. Another great place to just check out their work is garageliving.com. You can see some of the videos that Remis is playing up right now. It is what they can do to that area of your home and your property is mind-blowing, and the results will keep paying you back for a long time. So if you're interested or want to find out more, 204-999-1234, Pat Kanuga. Check them out online at garageliving.com. Garage Living Winnipeg, garages made for living, CFL 110, tomorrow on the program. Hey, folks, I actually was just coming by here to Remis's today, and I saw a Rollies transfer truck rolling through the city, taking care of somebody's next move. And if you have a move coming up, why not do the same and use Rollies, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. And they've been doing it for over 60 years, family owned in the business. Now, their logistics business takes them all over southern Manitoba and the city on a daily basis. And for your move, that means flexible routes, flexible timing, and a great price on that move. And you don't stay in business doing what Rollies is doing for over 60 years without giving out the best in pricing and the best in quality and trusted service. And there's very few industries where you need to trust people more than moving all of your precious belongings from one spot to another. Find out more online. They've got a great new website at rollies.com. There's a request a quote feature. Pop in, let them know when, where you're moving, what you need to move. They'll turn it around. One of their friendly staff will be in touch with a very competitive quote in no time. So for your next move, take as much of the stress out and use the most trusted name in moving for over 60 years, Rollies Transfer. Request a quote today or find out more information at rollies.com. Got to shout out our friends at Consolidated Supply, who are very busy right now as the leaders in irrigation systems. And God knows this summer we've had the need for irrigation. If you've got irrigation needs, Consolidated Supply can help you out with that. They're also got artificial turf, golf carts, both new and used, as the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba, and other great options for your property like hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens. They're also the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Give Consolidated Supply a call or pop by and see them at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East. And you can check out everything they've got going on online at cte.ca. And just before we bring in Coach Lapo, don't forget, for all your battery needs, Manitoba Battery is the local option where you'll get the best service and the best prices in town. Batteries for literally everything. You got these summer weekends, you're in a boat, you're camping, you're on ATVs and more. Whatever you need, they've got the batteries for it. You'll be able to shop local, and you'll get the best price in town, beating the pants off the big box stores, period. Logan Avenue, the original location. Their new location on Dover Court out on the south side of the city, now rolling as well. And if you don't have time to pop in, don't worry about it. Give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com, and they will deliver the batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. ManitobaBattery.com, 2 locations in Winnipeg for all your battery needs, and longtime proud supporters of Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, Coach Mike Taylor coming up in a few minutes. Mike McIntyre, a little baseball talk, but first, let's get the latest on the CFL and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with the coach, Paul LaPolice. Lapo, what's going on? It's great to have you on the program.
Yeah, just early in the week trying to get caught up on my film, watching games. I was watching the Riders Bombers this morning. I got to do some Montreal this afternoon because the games start up Thursday night already.
You know, I speaking of the YouTube channel, there's some great stuff talking Shea Paterson, talking Pokey Wilson going in. I mean, there were some big stories on both sidelines last week. And, you know, I can't say I was surprised that was a defensive battle. But I got to tell you, the talk around Winnipeg is what is up with the Bomber offense? You know, a thing or two about good offenses. What do you make of the struggles the Bombers have had so far under Zach Collaros, but in particular last week at Mosaic Stadium?
So, you know, what happened last week is I thought the Riders did a really good job of minimizing on first down. Like Zach seemed to have a bunch of second and longs, and that's been a struggle for them to convert this season. But also, you know, the Riders just do a good job. They played a lot of zone, and they got you in second and long. They dropped everybody off, and Zach had to check it down. Sometimes it got first downs. Sometimes it didn't. And what the problem is when you face a team playing zone, you just don't get any explosive plays. So they really kept Winnipeg out of the explosive plays. And, you know, certainly they're in that game. They're driving for a position to kick a field goal, and they get the turnover. The Riders get the turnover. Zach throws the interception. Adam O'Clair picks it off on a throw to Dembski. And then late in the game, there's 3 minutes left. They're down 1 touchdown, and that's a beautiful throw by Zach to Dembski. Jameer Thurman comes up, strips it out, knocks the ball out, and kind of hurts their opportunity. So the Riders aren't turning it over, and they're getting takeaways, and that's a recipe for success. I don't care who you're playing.
You know, there were we were mentioning some of the tweets from Doug Brown yesterday, who was obviously doing the color along with DT on CJOB. And there were a few times where it just didn't look like Zach maybe had the same pop in his arm as before. I mean, there was one in particular play where Pokey was 4 or 5 yards clear of his opponent, but the ball took so long to get there, it ended up getting broken up. I mean, what are you seeing of about Zach overall? I mean, I know it was a slow start for him and the offense right now, but should the Bombers be concerned about where the quarterback's at right now, or is this just part of the process and he's a veteran, he'll be there when they need him?
Well, I think what they have to be concerned about is the only thing they're concerned about. Like Zach is a very good football player. He's the best you have in the building. They just got to make sure that, you know, he doesn't make those critical decisions that may lead to a turnover. So like he's seen so many coverages. He's seen so many throws. He makes so many off schedule plays. Sometimes I think he's just got to be a little bit careful of not taking that one that is maybe across his body. He can't see the backside of the coverage. But, you know, there's one of those a game that when you're not scoring a lot of points, you can't get a takeaway there. So I think that's the only thing they have to worry about, Zach. But also they got to play complementary football. Can they get the run game going consistently so Zach doesn't have to put the ball up so much on second and long? Keep them in second and medium, second and short situations, and the whole offense is open. But for every team in the CFL, when you're in second and 10, it's hard to convert. And the Bombers have struggled with that this season.
Well, and I mean, listen, they weren't just doing it against any team. I mean, that Rider defense has very quickly under Corey Mace established itself as one of, if not the top unit in the league. What stands out of what Saskatchewan's been able to do to the Bombers last week, but to their opponents all season long, which has allowed them to keep on winning even without Trevor Harris?
2 things I'm going to talk about when I break their defense down this week is they do a really good job, their front 4, of shedding blocks. So there are a couple times the Bombers, are on the right people. They're blocking them correctly. And then, the defensive tackle just throws them out of the way. CJ Avery throws an offensive lineman out of the way and he makes a tackle. So D-line does a really good job of shedding blocks. And this team really stops the run and forces you into second and longs. And then they do what they've done. They've got the most takeaways in the Canadian Football League. They have 12 interceptions, 6 fumble recoveries. They've created 19 turnovers this season. So that's a recipe for success in the CFL. And that's something Corey Mace, when he was in Toronto, they were number one stop on the run, and they were number one in getting takeaways. So he's brought over that philosophy, and it's worked well with the players he has in that building.
You know what? I can't say enough about Mace. And, obviously we're here in Winnipeg following the Bombers most closely, but it just seems, Paul, that he has showed up in Saskatchewan in a market that, had eroded some fans, certainly some confidence in the organization, and right out of the gate reestablished a culture of high expectations, performance. He's getting the most out of the players. And I mean, you have to think, that market very, very well, that is resonating with a market that absolutely lives and dies with their football team. But when you lose 7 games in a row to finish 2 seasons in a row, confidence wasn't quite there. What are just your thoughts on Corey Mason, what he's done early in his crack at being the head coach there in Regina?
So there were 2 things. When I did my season preview of this team, I thought this team could improve the most in the Canadian Football League, and probably for 2 reasons. One, a healthy Trevor Harris, which still hasn't shown up. But more importantly, that Corey Mace coming over and taking a team that was last in the CFO in takeaways and creating that, culture of let's take the football away. And that's kind of what happened. The biggest thing about culture, though, is you got to win. Like, you can have the best culture, the best coaches and everything, but if you're continuing to lose, it just erodes confidence in what you're doing. So, they were in an Edmonton. They could have lost that first game against Edmonton. They had to come back with 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, week 1, and everyone would have been like, whoa, what's going on? They lost to Edmonton. So it's just once they get that first win and then another close win, they're doing the things that, winning teams do, that does build the confidence in everybody. And yeah, Corey does a good job coaching.
You mentioned Edmonton, Lapo. It kind of feels like it's deja vu to last season, with the exception that Chris Jones got fired. They started off 0-9 last year, I believe. A whole bunch of those games they could have easily won. I think that's even more the case this year. I mean, I'm not even sure there's been one game that they've been out of. They've been right there, and yet they find ways to lose. How difficult is that for guys in the room and for the coaching staff to kind of keep moving forward, knowing that you're so close, but you're not getting the results in a results-based business?
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to try to make sure on a week-to-week basis. And, I had 2 years of trying to struggle to get over the hump in Ottawa. And you're just trying to go in and say, all right, here are the issues why we lost the game. Here's where we got to improve. And this area's got to be better. We can't turn the ball over. We got to score in the red zone, whatever those factors are. And you just got to keep your players focused on, don't worry about the past, learn from it. And then you got to go play a new game. And for Edmonton, 3 walk-off field goals, for them to lose, it's just a very hard thing that had happened to them the last couple of weeks. Chris Jones gets fired. So it's really hard for teams that are struggling, but they've got to find a way. Where is the leadership? I think they're a very young team on defense. Like, you need somebody in that room, Eugene Lewis, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, somebody's got to go, okay, this is how it stops, by us playing better, making sure we play better than the other opponent. Because like you said, it's a results business. So you can be close all you want, but you got to get a win. And nobody's happy in that building till you get a win. At Hamilton this week, very happy team, right? Very happy, excited, after getting a win after a bye. But there's just no feeling like it. It's very difficult when you're in a building.
Well, who's not going to be happy? Either team playing at BMO on Saturday night, because the Bombers just lost to the Riders and the Argos just lost to the Ticats. This is a huge game for Winnipeg, considering the hole that they've dug for themselves. First off, the Argos. Dukes is still in. He's had some ups and downs. Has looked really good at some points, but obviously not quite as consistent. What do you make of the challenge for the Bombers coming up on Saturday night this week in Toronto?
Well, first of all, you're going to have to face a team that really runs the ball well. The Argonauts have a very good offensive line. They lead the CFL in rushing as of last week. So they're going to have to stop the run. That's going to be something they do, force Toronto to throw the football. And what Cameron Dukes has done a good job of is he's been able to move. They don't have a lot of explosive plays, but he's able to keep that team on the field, and they go down and score touchdowns. Now, Toronto defensively has got to do their part, because if you saw, like, Hamilton got ahead of Toronto, they had a blocked punt, then they had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And Toronto's kind of not built to play that way. They don't have a lot of shots downfield. They're a very controlled passing game. So for the Bombers, they've got to make sure, get Zach and company going, get a lead, force them to do something they didn't. And it'll be interesting to see, are they going to continue to play Cameron Dukes, or is it going to be is Nick Arbuckle going to go back in? He finished the game last week, let him do a touchdown. So it'll be interesting to see what their decision is at the quarterback position.
Lapo, I've got to pick your offensive brain here. Zach Collaros is the starter for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He's the guy that, has been authoring these incredible offensive seasons. Chris Streveler is a unicorn in that he plays the same position, but does it in a very different way with a far bigger focus on the run game. Now that the rules allow two quarterbacks on the field at one point, and obviously you can go back and forth, from an OC perspective, what is possible and what wrinkles do you think we might see down the stretch this year, getting the most out of both QBs in this unique situation that Buck Pierce has?
Well, I think you saw that early in the season. Buck's very creative, and you saw him, like Streveler, catching a pass, or they threw a pass to him out in the flat. You've seen him get a speed sweep in a game. Streveler's got size and speed and is just such a good athlete. So, yeah, you can utilize him in other ways. And you've seen, obviously, the Bombers keep him in some short yardage situations. And when they're in those situations, they end up moving. All right, let's keep Zach on the sideline, put Chris in, and we can do a different package. Why you're doing that? One, because Streveler is a good player. Two, it creates something the defense has to work on, or it's something that they don't see a lot. That's why you'd like to do those type of things. And, I think it's great to have more guys who can do different things, where you just got to have a plan. Like, we're going to do this after every wedge. You're going to go in for a play or two, and we'll see how it goes. That's how I used to try to handle it with Chris, with Matt Nichols and Zach back in the day.
Paul LaPolice is with us. Lapo, I know you've got a meeting right away, but before we go, for people that missed when you joined us a few weeks ago, let people know about the YouTube channel. And we're well over 900. Let's get to 1,000 subs today. Get on over there and give Lapo a sub. But some really great CFL content for fans.
Well, yeah, and you guys are the ones. Like, after I was on with you guys, it went up by like 150 people. So, I appreciate that. No, we're just I do all this work in prepping. So I'm watching the game film, I'm taking notes and everything. So I just said, like last year, when I start recording it, and I can just post it up so people can see some of the, here's 12 plays of the game that I thought was interesting. Go ahead and talk about it and show some information. So, yeah, that's some of the stuff we're trying to put out there. And I try to put the unreal plays of the week each week. And so stuff people can, I think the longer form stuff, if you're doing other work, you can kind of listen. Or if you're watching a game, you can come on and play, and you can kind of watch the game, but you can also hear the breakdowns of the plays from the previous week. So that's what I'm trying to do.
You want to be a smarter football fan, gang? Get on over to Paul LaPolice on YouTube. Throw a sub in there. And Lapo, great stuff. Continued success. Loving what you're doing on the YouTube channel. Let's do this again soon and enjoy what should be another great week in the Canadian Football League.
Thanks, Hustler.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, great stuff with Lapo. Cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug. The generics tasted great at the comedy festival on the weekend. And of course, listen, it was such a treat to talk to Lapo. Again, subscribe to his YouTube channel, folks. It will make you a smarter football fan, and does some great coach work. So thanks again to Lapo for coming on today. Of course, when we're talking Bombers and CFL on the program, we do it for Princess Auto, proud sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk and the Bombers home, Princess Auto Stadium, and of course the Princess Auto tailgate party before the game. Be rocking again next week when the BC Lions come to town. Get there early, 2 hours before the game. $5 beers, $3.50 poppin' hot dogs, inflatables for the kids, entertainment, and more. It is the place to be before all Blue Bomber games. Of course, Princess Auto, proudly founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, with 2 locations on Panet Road and Portage Avenue West, where you'll find the best deals and the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. And don't forget, you can also shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. We don't have a lot of time in the summer to take advantage of all this beautiful weather, gang. So if you've got a big project like, say, building a fence, might I suggest use the experts at Wallace & Wallace to build that fence and let you take advantage of the summer and get that thing done and enjoy the summer on your side of a new fence. Wallace & Wallace has been doing it since 1946. You've seen their fences and trucks all around the city. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they have got you covered with vinyl, chain link, welded wire, wood fences, whatever you need, Wallace & Wallace can do it. And that'll last and add so much to your home as well. Best way to get in touch with them is give them a phone call, 204-452-2700. That, and of course, their massive selection of garage doors as well. The Wallace & Wallace team will come down to you and give you a free estimate on the job that you're thinking about doing, and then get you going as better than anybody's been doing it now into their 7th, 8th decade of service here in Winnipeg. You can also check them online at wallacefences.com or pop down and see them at their showroom on Lawson Crescent just off of Kenaston. And as we bring in Mike McIntyre in just a minute, also got to shout out the fellas at F Apparel. It's wedding season right now, gang. And if you're looking into your closet and realize that you may need to up your menswear game, F's got you covered. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. And you can also find out more online or or check them out online or make an appointment to come in for a fitting at that's EPHapparel.com. All right, Mike McIntyre coming up in just a few minutes. And, a little bit of a lighting switch around there, Remo. I'm not sure whether those just conked out on us or what, but nice fast move to turn the other lights on.
Yeah, I got to plug those in after when Mike comes on. That's fine. We're working on the fly here. It's part of live production. You know, not everything goes smoothly. Technology, it's weird. Huh? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you did the same thing and you don't know why. That's what
We've
I've
been
learned.
doing this long enough. There has been a few weird ones. The weirdest one I still think is when I was at Confusion a couple weeks ago, and just in the middle of the show, all of a sudden the camera didn't want to work anymore, and we had to make it through.
Yeah, well, you have this laptop that you go to use the built-in camera, and there's a lock screen on it, and we don't know why, and I have to spend some time troubleshooting that. So that's my project for this week.
Yes, and Randy, sorry about blowing out your ear pods on that 1919 commercial. As I said, things are a little different today. We will get through it, and we will make it happen. I'm just wrapping up the conversation with Lapo, though, Reem. This matchup between Toronto and Winnipeg is going to be really interesting. I mean, both teams are going to be coming in with a burr in their saddle after losing a very winnable game to an arch rival. The Riders, I'm not saying that the Riders didn't deserve to win that game. They absolutely did. But when the Bombers are going through all of the tape, particularly on offense, there were some missed opportunities. And the Bombers, for the longest time, have been a team that consistently didn't make the mistakes that other teams did, won the turnover battle, and that often was enough to be the difference it ended up being the difference in the wrong way against the Saskatchewan Roughriders on the weekend.
Yeah, one thing for the Bombers, their margin for error is a lot slimmer, and you can't be, they're not getting takeaways, you're not generating turnovers, and you're giving the ball up. I mean, that interception that Claire's threw, not ideal timing, and you think, you're driving to take the lead, and Nick Dembski fumbled. Great play there by Saskatchewan. But how about this against Toronto coming up, Huss? Big revenge game week. You have Janarian Grant, who had another receiving touchdown. He's tearing. You think he wants to score one against his former team?
I don't even want to think about that. Jamison Sheehan better be ready to drop those suckers on the sidelines or just straight up out of bounds. Mm-hmm. We do not need. He's taken 3 kicks back already this season. It seems like every time it comes in his hands, he's going to the house.
Okay, or how about Rasheed Bailey, who's in a much bigger role receiving right now with Toronto? You think he wants to score against his friends and former teammates? 2 players, I think, to watch. And it's hard to do a week here, Huss. We were talking about how many times you're going to mention Rutger this summer, but we've been talking in terms of former Bombers. I mean, which are we talking about the most here? Is it Hardrick? That was last week. He got hurt. Rasheed Bailey, you haven't mentioned him a lot, but I think he's done very well. Again, bigger role in the offense, but Janarian Grant's probably the one we've talked about the most this year. Or is it Drew Brown? His name's actually coming up a lot. You could go on and on the list here of departures for the Bombers making an impact on other teams. How about Demario Houston in Calgary? He's been pretty good too. It's tough.
Yeah, and listen, and it's a lot tougher when the team's 2-5. However, you get a win against Toronto on the weekend and come back. Bombers are going to be ready for BC. I will tell you that much. But BC is a hell of a football team, and even if you're at your best, nothing guaranteed about that squad. Let's get ready to take it around the horn. I think we're going back out to Rossmere right now. We talked to Braxton Kuntz of Breezy Bend, who shared the lead yesterday at the Manitoba Am. And it looks like Mike is out there covering it for the Free Press. Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Freep, joins us now. What's up, Mike?
Huss, indeed I am. Rossmere. Fun fact. Rossmere's my old stomping grounds. I was actually... As a kid, I was a member at Rossmere Golf and Country Club. Spent many a summer on the links at Rossmere. The good old days growing up in North Kildonan, me and my buddies, we would ride our bikes to Rossmere first thing in the morning, get in 18, go in the clubhouse for a grilled cinnamon bun. I don't think anybody makes them better than Rossmere. I don't know if they still have them. They probably do. And then we go out and play another 18. That was actually when I was a good golfer back in my teenage years.
You've regressed?
What's that?
You've regressed over the years?
Yeah. Both the quantity and especially the quality of my golf game has regressed. Golf, as you know, golf is one of those things, if you don't do it a lot, you get rusty. And although I've played a little more this summer than coming off 2 weeks of holidays, got in 6 rounds over the last couple of weeks. Not exactly Ken Wiebe territory in terms of volume of games, but I have played quite a bit this year, and I will say my game has picked up a little bit. But it's a lot of fun hanging out here at Rossmere, seeing the top amateurs in the province, and actually beyond the province, because there's a couple of Ontario guys that are in the field and playing well. To see some of these guys, the way they can hit it, and Braxton, who was on with you yesterday. He's out on the course right now. I believe he's now on the 4th hole. He's 1 over on his round so far today, and 1 shot off the lead, which Drew Jones, a guy who, how's this for a cool story, Huss? He's a phys ed teacher from Brandon who tore his MCL a month ago when a kid in his phys ed class crashed into his knee, wrecked his knee, and here he is a month later limping around Rossmere. He's got a brace on his knee, shot 2 under yesterday, and he's even so far through 3 holes today. And he's been around, he's 29. He's been in the amateur for a number of years. He's had some close calls, but obviously the big story this week is whether Braxton Kuntz can make some history. Nobody has ever won 4 Manitoba amateurs in a row. And as Braxton, I'm sure, mentioned yesterday, this is kind of his last hurrah because he'll be turning pro. He's going back to college for his final NCAA season this fall, and then he'll be turning pro next year. And certainly looks like he's got a bright future. Huss, I actually played around with Braxton at Rossmere back in May during the Golf Manitoba kickoff event, and poor Braxton had to lug me, Ken Weeb, and our sports editor Jason Bell around for 18. And I'm glad to see we haven't dragged him down into the gutter with our game, because he had a real nice 68 yesterday and looking to keep that going today.
Well, he is. I mean, I know being around Breezy, how proud everyone is of what he's done in his young career. And, now one shot off the lead of Drew Jones. They're both on the 4th hole. Braxton with an early bogey. Drew even par throughout this tourney so far. And only 2 players, Braxton Kuntz and Drew Jones, better than even par right now at Rossmere. I have to ask you, Mike, you mentioned, before we move on to Jets talk and Bombers, you mentioned that, when you were a kid, you used to spend a lot of time at Rossmere. By any chance, was your playing partner Andy Anderson, who we saw do his thing last Thursday at the Wrestling United event?
Andy wasn't really into golf. Andy and I played hockey together out of Gateway. We were teammates on the Gateway Flyers for a number of years. Fun fact, me and Andy Anderson and Jill Officer, we were all buddies and classmates at Maple Leaf School in North Kildonan. Jill's gone on to be an Olympic medalist, of course, Olympic gold medals. Andy has gone on to be a pro wrestler. Fun little story about Andy Anderson, whose real name, I don't think I'm giving away trade secrets here, he's Andy Lewis. Andy's parents, prior to moving to Edmonton when he was a teenager, Andy's parents owned what is now known as Jeffrey's on Henderson Highway.
Great spot.
Back then, it was a Italian pizza joint called Angelo's. And that is where I fell in love with pro wrestling. Andy also fell in love with pro wrestling. We used to hang out at his parents' restaurant as kids. And, back then there was no streaming services and all that's available now. You had to order pay-per-views the old-fashioned way on the big screen. And so we used to watch, WrestleMania and some of the other WWF big events at his parents' restaurant. And we used to talk about, that's going to be us when we're older. And Andy, of course, did go on to become a pro wrestler. He's had a great career in primarily Mexico and Puerto Rico. Andy's claim to fame, though, Huss, and there's video of it on YouTube. He was an extra on Monday Night Raw. This is like 20-something years ago. He was a security guard who took a stone cold stunner from Steve Austin. I know, talking to Andy, that was a career highlight.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised he didn't end up at the Republican National Convention last week. I mean, Hogan has been stunned by Stone Cold. Linda McMahon has been stunned by Stone Cold, and even President Donald Trump has been stunned by Stone Cold. That was a fun event, though. It was great to meet Andy. I had a couple with him afterwards, and Mike, what did you think about my first my first time into the ring as part of a professional wrestling event? I can now say that I've cashed a check in the business.
You were tremendous, reminding me of vintage Bobby Heenan or Paul Heyman. Huss, you and the Mecca Shane Madison, who, by the way, when Wrestling United put on its first event back in May, my pal Andy wrestled Shane Madison that night, and Carter Chen, the treacherous Carter Chen, handed Shane Madison a whole bunch of baby powder, which he threw in Andy's eyes and blinded him.
Disgraceful.
To pick up the cheap victory. So, I was already kind of up in arms over their tactics, their underhanded, dirty tactics. And so I appreciated you, Huss, calling Carter Chen and Shane Madison to task. I was a little worried for your safety, though, in the ring. Shane Madison, though, he opted to fight with words. when he said, "Hey, didn't you used to be on TSN?" That was tremendous. And he even took a pot shot at Winnipeg Sports Talk, which you had the comeback at the ready for. It was great theater.
You know what? That is what it's all about. I have a feeling that this rivalry is not over.
Yeah.
And October 10th, the next day, right in between the Jets' first game of the season and the home opener the next day. Sweet spot there at the Franco-Manitoban Cultural Center. Hey, speaking of the Jets, and obviously things are very slow right now, not a lot of news. I was mentioning off the top of the show that since we brought this up and a few individuals said that, they've heard the potential Winnipeg as a next destination for Patrick Laine for a number of reasons. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me at the bar, at the Bomber game, like wherever, and asked me about this. And listen, I am a huge Laine fan. I remember the best of Patrick Laine, which was as a Winnipeg Jet. It's been sad to see kind of where he's gone since then, and first and foremost for his personal well-being, being in the NHL program. But it's been great to see. He's training with a bunch of NFLers right now down, which was really neat to see. I think it was David Njoku and him like running through. So I mean, he's working his way to get back in. Is it a waste of time to even talk about that or think about that? And where are you at on, would that make sense? Like if there was a way to make the dollars and cents work, and you're not trading. I mean, I think at this point with Columbus, I think they're looking to get maybe a mid-round pick or something like that back for him. If that's the case, does it not make sense to try to give that another shot? As I mentioned earlier, if I'm Davis Payne, I'd sure love to have that guy come in and help a power play get going. We all love a redemption story, and it is clear in this chat when I'm on the streets of Winnipeg, there are very few former players of Winnipeg sports that are still held in higher regard than 29.
Yeah, I'd say there's two players in this market, and I see their jerseys everywhere still. You walk around the concourse. I know you do all the time at Canada Life Center. You see Byfuglien jerseys and you see Laine jerseys. Dustin Byfuglien is no longer playing hockey. He's not coming back. Patrick Laine, he is going to be playing hockey, continuing his career. So, I think there's some smoke there. Is it a full-blown inferno at this point? No. I do know that Patrick Laine has expressed interest in a potential reunion in Winnipeg. I just as Jets fans hold Patrick Laine near and dear, I think Patrick Laine holds Winnipeg and, the Jets organization to a degree, at least, the foundation of that organization and what it meant to him early in his career. Were there issues, obviously, while he was here? Yes. But I think those issues are long since resolved. And, I think Patrick Laine, like a lot of athletes eventually learn, and not just athletes, think of anyone in any profession, you learn that sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side, that you had it pretty good where you were. So I think Patrick Laine, it's a unique situation here, Huss, because like the Blue Jackets have said that they're working with his agent to look at potential landing spots. And, I think Columbus wants to do right by him. I also think because of his salary and his unique circumstances, the potential suitors for Patrick Laine are probably it's a smaller list than if circumstances were a little different. And I got to think that the Jets, are a team that would absolutely be interested. And I know that Winnipeg is a place that still means a lot to Patrick Laine. Does that mean it's going to happen? No. But it is something to certainly keep an eye on. And again, you look at the Jets and what they're trying to do in this market. Patrick Laine is a needle mover. He was when he was here, and a reunion with him, I got to think, would also move that needle in a significant way. And this is a team that is looking for ways to move the needle. The building is not packed perpetually. Patrick Laine, he's one of those few players that his name alone can sell some tickets, and that's not a small thing in this market. So yeah, I mean, I think there's some things that he can do that the Jets would absolutely benefit from. I also think Winnipeg would be good for Patrik Laine and where he is in his life, and in his career. And in some ways, the personal has taken precedent over the professional aspect. Patrik Laine, I got to think, is looking, for a place that is going to be good to him and that he can really settle into. And, Winnipeg is a place he knows very well. So, yeah, I hear it as well. I mean, there's obviously been some rumblings out there, and I don't think it's going to go away. Like until there's some finality here, whether it's Winnipeg or another team. There's also, Huss, just a quick note here. It's really interesting, the player assistance program. When I was in Columbus in March, I had a great chat with Pascal Vincent, who was the coach at the time. And, Pascal was telling me just how unusual this player assistance program is. Like Pascal was prohibited from sending Patrik Laine a text to say, "Hey, Patrick, how's it going? How you doing? How you feeling?" Like when a player is in this program, the team has to be completely hands off. And it's unusual because this isn't a situation where Laine has taken an absence from the team because the team did something to him to cause issues. In a lot of ways, the player, you'd think that maybe this would be a time that the team or the player would appreciate hearing from people close to him, but they really have to take a hands-off approach. And in that sense, like Pascal told me at the time, he had no idea whether Patrik Laine, how he was doing and what the future held. He said, I could come to the rink tomorrow and he could be there ready to return. So I don't think a lot of folks have had a lot of detailed talks with Laine. A lot of what's happening now is through his agent, obviously, who is allowed to talk to him. But yeah, it's an unusual situation. And I got to think, as the summer goes on here, we're getting closer to a resolution of some kind. Could Winnipeg be in the mix? I absolutely think they could be.
And I mean, I just think about what that would mean to the team. And we can talk about the off ice. I mean,
right.
There would be a ton of people that would be really fired up. I mean, hopefully would help them sell some tickets. I think on the ice, the power play immediately gets that unique unicorn shot threat that they have really missed since 29-33 left the building. But from your perspective, I mean, you want to talk about storylines. I mean, a return and a little redemption tour for Laine, reestablishing himself as one of the most dangerous snipers in the National Hockey League would be incredible. But I said this way before this was even a thought. He has played his best hockey, has had his greatest heights here in this city. Often coming back to what can really be helpful to it. Now,
yeah,
certainly Scott Arniel wasn't there, but I don't think there's a guy in that coaching staff that doesn't look at what Laine has done in the past and wouldn't think that could help your club. And obviously the personalities and the leadership group of this team is very, very different. And listen, we've spent a lot of time talking about that, what it's like under an Adam Lowry than it was under a Blake Wheeler. And then you go back to what this guy did. I mean, he was one of the most dangerous players that was there in the St. Louis series that ended so disappointingly. And I'll still never get over it. The last thing this guy did for the team was score an OT winner in the first game of the season against the Calgary Flames. And then that was it. So I get it. And I mean, I'll be the first one to cop to it. I am right there with other folks thinking, that's legitimately excited about that prospect. And that would be one thing that would completely change the entire dialogue of this off season, to bring a guy like that in. And I also wonder, and I think these kind of are mutually exclusive. I don't think if one happens, one can't or whatnot, but we think about the relationship with Ehlers and Laine. And, if you had that, I think that almost makes it harder to keep Ehlers, to be honest, which is sort of kind of a funny side thing to it. But, that would be something that, to use your term, would be an absolute needle mover for the Winnipeg Jets. And, you know, I know it's not like we're looking for things to talk about in the offseason, but this is what people are talking about. We hadn't really revisited over the last little bit. I'd sort of been waiting to maybe a little bit more news to come out on first how he's doing personally, when he'll be coming out, and what Columbus are doing. But, you know, when you hear, you know, a few things behind the scenes, things like you had just mentioned that very much positive on that sort of a thing. Tell you what, there's a lot of people around here that are in the exact same boat, and wouldn't that be something? It would certainly give us a lot of people coming into the WST chat to give their takes on it. I will guarantee you that.
Yeah, those of us in the storytelling business, this would be pure gold for sure. And you know, again, I don't know where Laine is at in terms of he's still in this program. I will say, and I saw the video that you mentioned of him training. I think it was in Florida the other day with a bunch of NFL players. Maybe he's looking to switch careers. Maybe he's going to play in the NFL.
Dude, he could be a tight end. He's got he's big. He's got some running range.
I know he was just running like through pylons and obstacles and stuff, but he looked really good. He looked lean. He looked happy. That was the thing that I looked for. And I got to think, I mean, I don't think this is a great revelation. The fact he's working out with other pro athletes, that's got to be seen as a good sign in terms of where he's at. You know, this is a guy, he's not just sitting at home here, you know, riding a stationary bike in his basement by himself or something. Like that's got to be a good sign. And, you know, as we now look towards next season, which is now, you know, we're about to flip the calendar pretty soon here to August. And once we hit August, then training camp is next month. So, you know, it's been obviously slow across the league here for a few weeks, and we've probably got a few more weeks of that coming up. But the busy time is not too far on the horizon, and some finality, some closure to the Laine situation. And, you know, again, I think you're right. A lot of it's going to come down to what is Columbus willing to retain. Like, I don't think a Laine trade would get held up because of the return. Like, I don't think they're asking for the moon. I think it's more about salary retention. And again, you talk about teams that like maybe would be on Laine's personal wish list. And I don't think that's a crazy long list. Then now you're talking about teams that could actually afford, even with salary retained, to make Patrick Laine fit in the current structure. Huss, I know cap friendly has gone dark now, but there's a lot of teams that are in salary cap jail right now. The Jets are not one of them. And the only matter of business really left this summer is the Perfetti deal. And yes, if they go a long-term extension on Perfetti, which I don't think is all that likely, his number would be bigger. But if they go the more likely route, which is probably a bridge deal, I suspect the Jets, you know, would have plenty of cap room to fit a Laine type salary with some retention on it without having to do any other major surgery. So that is certainly a storyline to keep an eye on as we kind of plow through the dog days of summer here.
Yeah, even if I wanted to forget it, the folks in the chat will not allow that until we have some sort of clarity as to what's next for him. Well, what about his old pal, Ehlers? Where are we at right now on that? And I mean, have any of your opinions changed as to the likelihood of Ehlers being in camp for the Winnipeg Jets? And, you know, we've heard that his name has been mentioned in trade talks. If that doesn't happen, maybe, and this is probably outside of this Laine conversation, because as I said, all of a sudden you take on some money like that, it maybe prevents you from doing other things. But might we see some re-engagement on potentially an extension for Ehlers? And what's the latest on 27?
Yeah, I'm you know, as the days go on here and the more I hear, I'm certainly getting more and more inclined to say that he's likely going to be here when the season begins and maybe beyond the season. Huss, like, I think, you know, Scott Arniel has reached out and had some good conversations with a number of players, including Nikolai Ehlers. And, you know, I don't want to speak for Nikolai Ehlers, but I got to think he's liked what he's heard from the new head coach. We know Scott Arniel has kind of been quick to praise Ehlers and what he can do, and Kevin Cheveldayoff has said as much as well, publicly and I think privately. So I think there's been a lot of positive behind the scenes developments in terms of, this, not that the relationship was fractured or anything like that. This isn't a situation like maybe some others that we've seen in the past, but I do think that, the opportunity that is going to present itself for Nikolai Ehlers in let's face it, this is a huge year for Ehlers coming up, Huss. For all the talk about what he can be, the fact of the matter is, he is what he is at this point, which is just a perennial, like 60-ish point player. And yet we all see the potential that this is a guy, he should be an 80 or 90 point player with that talent and if used properly. And what better time to fully realize, what you could argue is a bit of untapped potential. And again, whether that's the player's fault, whether that's the team and the coach's fault, whether that's just bad luck. I mean, he's had a bunch of injuries, obviously, which have cut into some of that production over the years. Regardless of where you stand on that, the fact is a healthy and extremely motivated Nikolai Ehlers, who is hearing the right things from, the new coach and the staff around him. I think that could be a very good thing for the Jets. And I do think the Jets and Kevin Cheveldayoff, they're entirely comfortable coming into this season. Even if there's no long-term extension in place, we know their history. Kevin Cheveldayoff will not panic. That doesn't mean that at some point a decision is going to have to be made, because you'd never want to lose a Nikolai Ehlers for nothing next July 1. But I don't think the Jets view, training camp as some kind of deadline to either fish or cut bait when it comes to an Ehlers long-term extension. But we did see, obviously, last year, the Hellebuck and Scheifele situations get resolved just before, training camp or around training camp. So could we see that play out again? Absolutely. But I just think, to your original question, I'm just hearing a lot of positives when it comes to the Jets and their view of Ehlers and his view of the opportunity ahead. And I think coming into a contract year as he is, this could be a bit of a win-win for everybody, regardless of how it plays out. If the Jets could get the best version of Ehlers right off the hop, they're going to be better for it.
Well, no doubt about it. It also, though, I mean, if he's having a great season and they're, in a playoff spot and looking to be playing in the playoffs, makes it a lot tougher to move on from a player like that if they go, we're going to July 1 and we're going to see what else is out there. And that is a little bit of the game of chicken that happens often between agents and NHL GMs as we get into it. I mean, the one other guy that there still isn't clarity on is Cole Perfetti. Clarity in that the Jets own his rights. That's not an issue.
No.
But we've had a lot of conversations going back and forth between what makes the most sense for the player, for the team, a bridge deal, a longer-term deal. And I'm not sure, I've got an opinion on it. I mean, I think that, if they could get something done at 6 or 7 years, it probably is in the best interest of the team long-term. And the guy that's got a big, big future here in Winnipeg and in the National Hockey League. Others will say he's going to bet on himself, which certainly is one's rights. Got to tell you, I mean, if I'm Perfetti in the injury history that I've had and someone, it's going to be hard to say no to an extra $36 million or something over that. But where are you on Perfetti just as we sat here towards the end of July? What's the most likely, in your opinion, Mike, what's the most likely result of the negotiations? Is it a bridge deal, or is it something that buys a few years of free agency and we're just talking about Perfetti as a long-term Jet?
No, I think a bridge deal is most likely. A big part of that is, I think, because of who his agent is, Kurt Overhart. That's the way he tends to do business a lot of the time. Is that the best course of action for Cole Perfetti? I'm going to say no. I put me in a similar camp as you, Huss. I think with Cole Perfetti's injury history, 4 major injuries. Yes, he managed to stay fully healthy last year and had a real nice kind of what you could say was a first full season in the NHL. There was obviously some downs to go with the ups, but at the end of the day, you don't score 19 goals in the NHL by accident. And, there's a lot more to be offered, I think, and he's going to get that chance this year. So I could see why one would make the argument that, well, he's just barely scratching the surface of what he can do. Why would he commit long-term to a number? That number might be a lot bigger after this coming year. That being said, I think with his injury history and Huss, I think when you look at some deals that have already got done, and the Quinton Byfield one is, to me, that's a big one, because like Quinton Byfield, I think that puts a ceiling on what a long-term deal for Cole Perfetti would look like right now. Do you envision Cole Perfetti making more than Quinton Byfield? I don't.
The only way that he would get in excess of the 6.25 that Byfield got is if he signed for 7 or 8 years.
Sure.
Like even
Byfield
a 6-year deal.
5?
He was 5.
Yeah.
I don't think
So
the
you're
Jets,
right.
the
If
Jets
he
don't
bought
even
up more
do a
UFA
5-year
years,
deal.
for sure.
I think it was only one UFA year that went into the Byfield deal. I don't think the Jets do it at anything less than 6 years. And I think that if they were doing that, they'd probably prefer 7. The thing with Perfetti is he's going to be 22 on opening
New Year's Day.
Well, I think he's 22 right now, so I guess he'll be
Sorry,
23.
23, yeah.
But I just mean if you do a 6-year deal, that means he's up for a new contract at 28, which is probably the perfect time.
Prime time.
29, all right, if it makes sense, you could push that back a year. If I'm the agent, I don't want my guys to be on the other side of 30 when I'm doing that new deal. So I don't think it'll be 8.
Right.
But I think that if you're talking about it, you're looking at in excess of 6 if you're going to 6 or 7 years on the deal.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were Cole Perfetti and you had let's just say a 6 times 6, $36 million. And again, you've had 4 major injuries over your career. Last year, you didn't have any, and that's great. And you hope that becomes the norm. But that's a lot of money. And again, to your point, that's $36 million as a 22-year-old. And if your career goes the way you believe it will, then when you're 28, ka-ching, you cash in on another 6, 7, maybe an 8-year deal then. And the economics of the NHL 6 years from now, there's no telling what the cap ceiling might be. That's why I say, contrary to what I think is going to happen, which is a likely a 2-year bridge, I don't think that's ultimately the best situation for Perfetti. I think the Jets would like to go longer term. They'd probably like to go real long term. But, and so maybe this goes a little differently because of what's happened with the Anton Lundells and the, Quinton Byfield.
It's a trend. I mean, it's a trend.
It has been the trend for sure. I don't know if Kurt Overhart, who's been around a while, I don't know if he's one to kind of buck his own trends, but if I were a betting man, I'm betting on a bridge deal. I believe it gets done before camp. Like, I don't see this impeding, Cole Perfetti's going to be at training camp. This is too important of a year for him. But I got to think if you're the Jets, you'd be smart to just keep pushing away here and trying to sell the idea of, if not an 8-year extension, at least something in the range of, as you say, 5 or 6, that could get you to a number that everybody's pretty happy with at this point in time.
Mike, great stuff. We'll let you get back out on the golf course and enjoy it, and we'll look forward to reading your report on the AM tomorrow in the Winnipeg Free Press. Thanks for doing this.
Good stuff. Have a great week.
All right, there's Mike McIntyre from the Freep joining us live from Rossmere. Tonight, as we mentioned, Sea Bears, final regular season home game. It's fan appreciation game. If you're heading downtown and you're looking for the spot to enjoy yourselves after the game, it's the Beer Can, the Sea Bears after party at the Beer Can. And it's going to be beautiful tonight. I think about 26 for the high today. Perfect summer weather to get down there at Winnipeg's biggest and most beautiful outdoor beer garden, bar, and restaurant. The best in local beers from across Manitoba available at the Beer Can. Other drink options, and of course, the amazing food from the evil geniuses behind Hoagie Boys, the Cosmos Food Cantina. If you are there afterwards, might I suggest the Golden Gal, an amazing hamburger. They got chips and queso, a whole bunch of other options for you. So that's the place to be after the game. Sea Bears after parties all year long have been so much fun. Walk down there, get a couple in you to finish off, hopefully a big win for the Sea Bears. Of course, the beer can is open every day, noon to midnight. And you can also get the great food from the Cosmos guys at Hoagie Boys on South Osborne and at Next Door on Sherbrooke. Don't forget tomorrow, Wednesday night, for you wing lovers, Wingy Wednesday at Next Door at 116 Sherbrooke. We're going to be talking to Josh Goldberg in just a second. We'll see whether we might be needing to get a new jersey for one Vladimir Guerrero or potentially a Bo Bichette in the future. If you're looking for a jersey of your favorite player, your favorite team, you know where to go for that. Royal Sports, the biggest Jet selection in town. Tons of Bomber gear, including sideline exclusives. Not to mention NFL gear coming in for your favorite team as we get closer to the season. Jays, NBA, international soccer, not to mention soccer, baseball, softball, tennis, disc golf, bikes, running. It's got it all. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. As we get closer into the weekend with the CFL coming back and the Olympics beginning, no better place to get together with your gang to watch the big game than your local BP. Enjoy those ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. And, of course, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza hot and fresh to your door by ordering online than bostonpizza.com. All right, let's quickly hit the diamond and welcome in our pal Josh Goldberg in. And, Josh, we're out of the All-Star break now, and it almost seems like we're just running out the stretch for the Jays. Is this just, are most of your conversations about the trade deadline now when it comes to this baseball team this year?
Yeah, I would say, Huss, everything right now revolves around the trade deadline. It's a week away. That's really it now for the Blue Jays. Like, we'll see what they do in terms of who they move. I think it's mostly going to be rentals. Like, I don't think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Bo Bichette or Kevin Gausman. I could maybe see a scenario in which Chris Bassett is out there, but I think that's a longer shot than the likes, like Kikuchi's as good as gone. And then outside of him, Jimmy Garcia's back and looking pretty good. He should be able to net a decent return. They don't have that much that is really going to interest a lot of other teams. Like, they're not in a particularly great spot from that perspective. So I think anyone who's looking at the deadline as a possible way to maybe really infuse a farm system that's lacking in talent for the most part with talent is probably going to be at least somewhat underwhelmed.
You know, I almost hate having this conversation because you mentioned that Kikuchi is as good as gone. Kikuchi is my favorite player. Believed in him going into last season. Guy's been nails for the last 2 years, but he is a guy, especially with the strikeout rate that he's had this year, is going to have a lot of interest from contending teams. What can the Jays expect on a return for a player like you say?
I think a couple of prospects. Like, I think a team giving up like a prospect in the 6 to 10 range in their system, and then maybe another lower level or two prospect in addition to that is a reasonable return. Like, there's not an abundance of starting pitchers out there right now. Like, Garrett Crochet with the White Sox is probably the one that everyone looks at as the most impactful that might get moved. And he's going to cost a ton because he's not a free agent. He's young. He's really good. But in terms of rentals, there's not really that much out there beyond Kikuchi. And like you said, teams always value strikeouts really at all times of the year, but particularly at this time of the year. And he has shown in the past that he's had success pitching out of the bullpen in spurts as well. So it could be a type of situation where he's a starter down the stretch, helps the team get into the playoffs, And then, in a shorter postseason series, you move to a 3-man rotation, maybe a 4-man rotation. And then maybe he is somebody that you utilize out of the bullpen for a couple of innings. So he has a ton of value. There's a ton of teams, I think, that would be interested. Minnesota comes to mind. Baltimore comes to mind. The Atlanta Braves have had a ton of injuries. Max Fried just went on the injured list for them. They come to mind. There's no shortage of teams. Maybe the Red Sox, if they're buying, could be a team that makes some sense as well. So it's just a case of what package the Blue Jays prioritize the most, because they're going to have options to pick from, and we'll see, what they look at in terms of what is the best fit for what they want to do moving forward.
All right. Well, Josh, let's put on your prognostication hat here. The likelihood of Vladdy getting traded, and the same thing, if he's gone, I would imagine, to trade a marquee player, a guy that's, on the side of the stadium, you want to have something that moves the needle and excites your fan base moving forward. How difficult of a deal would this be to make the likelihood of it? And if it is, what do the Jays need to make it happen?
So I would say it's very unlikely based on, everything that's been out there over the last couple of weeks. It doesn't seem like something that they want to do in season, because they have the notion that they're a couple of tweaks away from being competitive again next year, which, I don't see it personally. Like, I don't think that running back largely the same roster and then making some moves in free agency is radically going to change things, because they kind of did that this year and the bottom completely fell out when, they got the most out of the roster that they possibly could last year. And it wasn't that much of a reach to imagine that they would regress at least somewhat, maybe not to this degree, but somewhat. So they seem to think that they're, as soon as next year, back in the thick of things. So I don't think it's going to, because he's a free agent after next year, and a team ideally would want him for 2 playoff runs. Maybe it's something that happens in the offseason. Like, my prediction is that they try again to get him signed to a long-term deal. And if they are miles apart in the winter, then maybe it's a situation in which you're looking at a deal. And his value is just so hard to handicap, because he's a first baseman who's not bringing a ton to the table defensively or on the bases. Home runs are solid, but not spectacular. I don't think he's going to be a 50 home run hitter. Again, maybe he could flirt with 40, but he seems like a 25 to 35. His batting average is up, his on-base percentage is up. He's having the second best offensive season of his career, and he's a really good offensive player, but he's not a transcendent offensive player. And I think the Blue Jays would want a return somewhere approaching that level of player, which I don't think he is. And I don't know if a lot of teams would also value him that way. So they're in a really tricky spot, because that's the type of deal that you would ideally like to set you up for the long term. And I think it would be they'd be able to get a good return, but I don't think it's the type of deal, anything approaching the Juan Soto situation. I don't even think you could get half of that for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's got less control than Soto did at the time, and he's not as good of an all-around offensive player. So, I think their best bet is just to sign him, because I think the return is more likely to be somewhat disappointing than not.
Josh Goldberg with us. Josh, the one other question I have for you as it pertains to the trade deadline and to the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Will the same guys that are in charge right now be the guys in charge if they get to the offseason going into next year? I have to admit, with how disappointing this team has been last year and this season, and you're talking about potentially moving a Vlad or a Bo or, these big pieces, if I'm in the ivory tower there at the top of the Rogers organization, I don't know how much I trust the guys that are making these decisions to be the ones that make a move like that.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I think that we've reached a point where I think a change is necessary. I just feel as though things have plateaued a little bit and maybe even gone in the wrong direction. And The whole idea when this front office came into control was, they were going to spend more, ownership approved more payroll. They have spent more. They've done really, on the whole, pretty well when it comes to signing veteran free agents. Trades have largely been pretty good as well. Like they've extracted a good amount of value in that sense. But it's not a sustainable model to build your team that way. And they just haven't developed quite enough impact talent. Like there have been some guys who have had some moments. Davis Schneider was obviously a great story last year and for a bit this year. Spencer Horwitz has been good, but they just haven't developed enough pitching wise and enough impact position player wise to really sustain things like you see teams like the Dodgers doing, where it's just a pipeline of talent. They can trade from it and then they just replenish it. So they just keep the hamster wheel going. The Jays have a bottom third farm system, and there's not a lot that is really bubbling at the surface that is that close realistically to making a huge impact for them at the major league level. And I just think that it's time for a fresh perspective, somebody to come in and put a new touch on things. I think a new manager is also probably necessary. And I just don't think this front office can hire another manager. Like they hired Montoyo. You get another manager when you're in a rebuild to kind of get you over the hump. Schneider and this team haven't been able to do that. So I just don't think you should be afforded the opportunity to see another manager through. Like it's been almost 10 years. I think Ross Atkins is in his ninth. This is his ninth season. And they've won 0 playoff games outside of, 2016, which you could really argue wasn't really his team. So this core, just hasn't gotten it done. And I think when you have this much evidence at this point, I think it's the logical conclusion to say that a change is needed.
Josh, always great catching up. Thanks for jumping on today, pal. And I'd say enjoy these games going forward.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's not like, you're tanking for the number 1 pick. Although, hey, if a Paul Skeens showed up next year, everyone would be pumped. But that's not really in the cards as well. Seems like a lost season for the Blue Jays, but we'll stay on top of it. And we'll look forward to catching up with you as well post-deadline or maybe around it next week.
Good to chat with you as always, Huss.
Appreciate it. There's Josh Goldberg, the Score. Great stuff from Josh. Love talking Jays with him. Speaking of baseball, it is the American Association All-Star break. 6 fish representing the Winnipeg Goldeyes down at the All-Star game, and Hal Lanier going into the American Association Hall of Fame as well. I know Andrew Collier was with us on last week, heading down there to be a part of the festivities. Of course, Hal's such a big part of Winnipeg Goldeyes history. They did the kids clinic yesterday. The fish were out at Goldeyes night at Assiniboia Downs last night. Couple days off for the fellas who are on a 6-game heater heading into the break. They'll return to action on the road later on this week. Back at home next week. Go to goldeyes.com for the full schedule, promo dates, as well as your opportunity to get both individual tickets and group tickets for the remainder of the 2024 season. Also want to shout out our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Cannot wait to get out there in just a few weeks. If you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing opportunity where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens is the spot. Unbelievable fishing, and even better if it's possible, hospitality from the Turan family and the Aikens Lake team. If you want more information to find out, there may be an availability or two for the remainder of this year's season, 2024. Find out more at aikenslake.com or get planning for 2025 for those prime dates. You can also check them out on all the social media feeds at Aikens Lake to see all the fun that's being had. And trust me, I will have some for you in a couple weeks when I get back after the August long weekend from Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Quick Breezy Bend golf update for you. Heading over to the Not Auto Corp Men's Amateur Championship. It's Drew Jones from Shiloh in the lead right now. He's 1 under par today. He's at 3 under. Lyle McKenzie of Niagara's had a great round. He's 3 under through 8. He's second at 2 under. Evan Noctegal and Braxton Kuntz 1 under. 4 players in red numbers right now. We'll stay on top of that today and tomorrow as Braxton Kuntz looks to make his 4th consecutive record-breaking amateur championship win. coming out of Breezy Bend Country Club. And again, breezybend.ca if you want more information on 2025 membership, wedding rentals, or more. Give a call to our pal Corey Johnson or check them out online at breezybend.ca. All right, big one tonight. Sea Bears and Calgary to get ready for the final home game of the year. We welcome in Mike Taylor, coach of the Seabs. Coach, what's up? You ready for tonight or what?
Hustler, we're ready. Can't wait. It's been a fun summer at home, and we're really looking forward to this last game.
No, we're hoping for another game potentially on that push to championship weekend. But, just overall, I mean, year 2 of the franchise, incredible support night after night, culminating with Fan Appreciation Night. I mean, how helpful is it, frankly, for you as a head coach, as a recruiter, as a leader of the organization to have this incredible support that you've seen all year long now for 2 seasons from the fans here in the Peg?
Well, it's something special. It's the type of situation you dream about. We're so thankful. Winnipeg is a big league sports city. They understand, and they're a great fan base. We're so thankful for all the energy and support and love that they've given our organization for the last 2 summers. We've had some amazing games here at home, especially at Canada Life Center this summer. We've had some fantastic finishes, some great comebacks. So it's been really exciting. But, the fans are super impactful. Whether it's supporting our guys, cheering for our guys, chirping at the other team, getting on officials. The home crowd here at Canada Life has been our 6th man. They've been so supportive. And, the fact that we're opening the upper bowl and we're going for all these different, franchise records or possible league records in attendance, it just shows what the special things that are happening with the Sea Bears here in Winnipeg. And we're so thankful. So I'm really looking forward to tonight's game. There's no place I'd rather be than out there, coaching and really working as hard as we can to get wins. We appreciate everything that the fans have given us, and we're really looking forward to this game tonight, especially with all the playoff implications and, Calgary rival coming in and all these other things. We're really excited and can't wait to see what the fans have in store for us.
Well, it starts a huge home and home between the Sea Bears and Calgary, and there's a lot on the line when it comes to the playoffs. But before we get there, I just kind of want to look back at this season, because in a lot of ways, I mean, coming to the games has been the same. The place has been full. The energy's been amazing. But, man, from your perspective, this has been a very, very different year. I mean, last year, you made no transactions. I mean, you had a group that came in game 1 and played through the season. This year has been a complete 180 from that, and some big-time players moving on and the team working through that. I mean, going into tonight, but looking back at this season, how would you describe the challenges and what the team's accomplished to get to this point?
Well, it's been a summer of change for sure. We built the team to start the summer around Teddy. And obviously that was the most significant and dynamic roster move that we could possibly make. It's unfortunate that Teddy was not able to, stay within the structure of the team and the system. But we made a strong organizational decision trying to respect our values and the type of team that we wanted to be and the way we want our players to handle themselves. The response from the team was immediate with 4 straight wins. So that was really positive. But it's not just that one move. We had other players, Darius wanted to go to take his chance for the NBA, went to Summer League, went to all these NBA workouts. And we're like, no, we need you here. So for one reason or another, we went through all of these adjustments. And now we find ourselves in a point where we have 4 or 5 players that went through training camp with us. And in such a short time, it's a challenge. But I love the attitude of our team. We've continued to work. I think it's impacted our consistency. It's impacted, let's say the foundation of our system. But we've, have a great coaching staff here. They've all worked very hard to keep the new players and get them up to speed quickly. But I'm really, appreciate the efforts from the guys to fight through some of the adversity, work through the changes, and keep battling. We're 8-9. We've got a chance to protect home court again today and lock in the playoffs. So I think with all the changes, that's really a good accomplishment for our guys, and we want to keep going, keep climbing, and keep working for more. But in an ideal world, you want to have it like last year where the team is together. There's, that you limit your roster moves, limit your changes so the players understand what it takes to win and what they need to do, game by game, the experiences together. This year, we had to do what we had to do, and we've worked our way through it as best we can.
Now you're in a spot where, I think the certainly there's a lot of more positive energy around the team right now with the way things have been going, and certainly that big win against Saskatchewan, I think, helped everyone both in the stands and in that dressing room. But with all the changes, who sort of stood out to you this season that, whether they're a newcomer or a guy that's been here all along, that has helped keep the focus on what you guys are trying to do, and that's get better every week and win basketball games?
Well, I think a guy who, I have a lot of respect for, and he's been super consistent and just on and off the floor, great character, is Alex Campbell. I think Alex is a veteran. He's actually on the University of Saskatchewan coaching staff, so he really understands the game. I love him as a player and as a person. He's been great for the culture of our team. He keeps the guys positive. He keeps working hard, always showing up all the time, competing and doing really well. I think another guy that has played his role really well this summer has been Chad Posthumous. Chad has done a really good job, and we were all so happy for him to get that put-back win in the game against Sask. We asked Chad to play a role for our team, and he's been really productive in his role. So he's another guy that, through some of the changing dynamics of our roster, has helped keep guys going in the right direction.
His role's increased quite a bit lately as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, he's earned it. He's done well. So we're really pleased with what he's doing. And I think some of the new guys that have come into the team have embraced some of the, let's say, adjustments, and like Scotty Lindsay has been first class. Scotty has been just really receptive, really responsive. And he's done so many little things on the court to help the team. Last game he had 11 rebounds. He's taking a tough defensive matchup. So he's impacting the game in a lot of ways. Simon Hildebrand. Simon is just steady, and he's had a couple recent games that he's played really well. So all of these guys in their own way have really contributed, and this is what makes me happy. Guys aren't going to have great games every single night out, and you want to try to help them and support them and put them in the best positions possible. But when you get certain guys like we've mentioned here that are really bringing great effort all the time and really trying to push the team in the right direction, especially through some of the changes we've had, as coaching staff, we really appreciate it.
Now, Coach, all of that's in the past. You had that big win on the weekend. Now it's time to keep this rolling. For fans that are not familiar with the playoff format, fill us in on where the Sea Bears are right now and what your team is playing for in this home and home against Calgary and with the 3 remaining games, hoping to keep your eyes on the prize with a chance to keep on competing for that championship trophy.
Yeah, Hustler, we took a big step forward with the win against Saskatchewan. That put us in a position where one more win for us seals the playoffs. One more loss for Saskatchewan would also give us the playoff berth as well. So this was a big step for us, winning on Saturday. It was a hard-fought game, came down to the end. And, we had some big plays, some great shots from Simon, and, a big finish from Chad. So this was a great step for our team. We're really proud of the guys. And now the opportunity for us, to make the playoffs is the first goal. All of these games are playoff atmosphere, playoff type of approach. But, the home and home for Calgary can be important. They beat us earlier in the season. So when we can tie the season series today, it gets us closer to Calgary. And then the season series could be won with a sweep of this home and home in Calgary. Now that's a tough ask for our team, but we're going to go for it. It starts with a great game tonight, and then we travel Wednesday and play Thursday in Calgary. So it's going to happen quickly, and we want to be at our best in these 2 games. Our last game is on the road in Edmonton. So again, another playoff caliber team, playoff implications from all 3 of these games. The first baseline for us is to lock in the playoff spot, and then we're playing for positioning with the rest of the 2.
Once the teams are set, there are games that will be played, on home court, whether they're here or out west, and then the championship weekend as well. Vancouver is hosting, so they are in right now. Will there be one other team from the West making it?
Well, so Vancouver is technically in because they're going to likely to finish first. The championship weekend is in Montreal. It was in Vancouver last
summer.
That's
right.
Yeah, so the top team, the number one seed in the West, gets an automatic bid into championship weekend. That's well-deserved and likely to be Vancouver. Outside chance for Edmonton, but really Vancouver's in a power position. So now you have Edmonton, Calgary, and Winnipeg. Now we're playing for spots 2, 3, and 4. Spot 2 will get a bye through the first round, and they will host that play-in game or semifinal or quarterfinal game to go to Montreal. So then the fourth place team will play at the third place team in that first round of the playoffs. So that's what we're looking at right now. We are, trying to win as many games as we can. The dream goal would be to, overtake Calgary, finish third, and get a home game here at Canada Life. From right now, the first step is to make the playoffs, and then we're focused on the playoff positioning after that. But the West has been super competitive this summer. It's been great basketball, and we know that this is going to be playoff caliber basketball down the stretch in these last 3 games.
Well, I know you're not thinking of it yet, but I and many fans will be thinking about it and remembering how the season ended last year. So if you can possibly find your way to Edmonton, the Sea Bears owe them one in the playoffs, and wouldn't that be nice to book that ticket to Montreal? Coach Mike Taylor of the Winnipeg Sea Bears with us again. Tickets available tonight. The upper deck is open, pushing for another CEBL record crowd against Calgary in a matchup that has huge implications for the Sea Bears. Hey, one of the great things about this team has been, local guys being able to come back and play. We talked about Chad earlier, but you mentioned Simon Hildebrand, who is, the youngest, I would imagine, of all the players, just finished his sophomore season with the Bisons, had 16 off the bench, a huge second half against Saskatchewan. Very interested in what you've seen in the growth and development of Simon and, what he's earned as far as playing time in a massive game like we just saw on the weekend, to be a guy that spends as much time on the court and makes the impact that he has.
Simon has been great for us. He started a lot of games this year. You can see him really maturing as a player. He's taken on defensive matchups, and he's been solid. I think at times he was a bit overmatched defensively last year, but he still was really good and won the U Sport Player of the Year. But you can see his development this year, especially defensively. He's made progress. He's been, he's had a lot on his plate, off the floor, and he's been focused on certain things. Those things have settled down in the recent weeks, and he had 15 the game before, and then he actually had 19, tied his career high against Sask. Most important, it was the clutch three-point shooting. He made big shots. In recent games, he's driven and finished strong at the basket. He had a dunk in Montreal, had a dunk against Sask, I think 2 dunks against Sask. So he's really playing well. He's playing with confidence, and you love to see it. So he's progressing really well. He's on track, and we love what we see from Simon. All of our advanced stats, all of our numbers play out so well for him and his impact on our team. So he's just been a great story for 2 summers. A hometown guy gets the opportunity through, the U Sport program, and has really made an impact on our team. And I just think it's great for the Sea Bears fans because it adds such a wonderful connection that one of their own is out there making a difference, making an impact. And Simon is just such a good young man. He's really respectful. He's really well raised. So he's just a perfect, let's say, representative of our organization, and he's somebody you want to see do so well, not only in basketball but in life.
Simon is just kind of really in a lot of ways starting his basketball journey. Jared Ogobemi Jackson came back after playing all around the world for a chance to play in front of friends and family, a more seasoned, experienced player, a veteran. What's it been like having him part of the squad this year?
Oh, Jared obviously is first class. He brings so much experience. He's been a guy who's had to go through some of the role changes. When we planned with Teddy as a go-to wing, needed a point guard, and Jared was really good, had very good numbers, was very productive. But then as our roster changed, Jared's been one of the guys who sacrificed a lot. We obviously brought in Justin Wright-Foreman, who is one of the most impactful players in the league, and he's at Jared's position. So, when our roster changed, the role changed for Jared. And this has been something that he's handled and he's, sacrificed a lot for our team. He's been really productive in his minutes. And to me, that's the most thing, making his minutes matter, making his minutes count. Obviously he, feels he wants to play more at times, but when you have a guy like Justin, who's so dynamic and leading the league in scoring and like second in assists and just such a, go-to scorer, that's just kind of how the rotation has been. But Jared has been great. He brings so much experience to the team. And I don't know if there's anybody who could be as productive as he has been in the minutes that he's gotten. So we really appreciate what he's done, the sacrifices he's made. And again, I know he's enjoyed playing in his hometown as well.
Coach, hey, before we go, and listen, I know your focus is on tonight and the rest of the Sea Bears season. You have incredible FIBA experience. I know that you're a basketball guy through and through. How excited are you to see, listen, the stars of the USA team, but the best Canadian team that's ever been put on the court, and what should be a really fun Olympic basketball competition getting going in a few days?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Olympic basketball. It's such high-level competition. I've been with national teams for 12 years, 8 years as head coach in Poland, 4 years as assistant coach with Czech Republic. We fell short in Poland in the 2021 Olympic qualifying tournament. We lost to Luka Doncic, Slovenia. We lost to Lithuania in the semifinals in Kaunas. It's just high-level basketball, so intelligent. The teams are so well coached and prepared. The players are so good, so smart. So I love to watch it. I think it's going to be a fantastic Olympic tournament. Obviously, people will talk about the star power of the United States and the quality of Canada, but France has struggled in their preparation games, but I think their home court is going to help them. Germany is another really wonderful story, great team. So I think it's going to be fun for fans. It's going to be great to watch. And whether you're interested in the quality of play, the style of play, the FIBA game, or you're interested in the NBA stars, there's so much to offer. So starting next week, I think we'll all be following closely. I'll be really excited. I've got USA winning the gold. I've got France silver, and I've got Canada taking the bronze.
Love it, Coach. Well, listen, we'll worry about that when it starts. Tonight, it's about your squad. Sea Bears, Calgary, downtown Canada Life Center in the biggest crowd of the year. Upper Bowl open. Tickets still available. And if you have not been to a Sea Bears game, you're missing out. And you got another chance. Hopefully two, but one for sure tonight. Coach, good luck to the squad tonight. Congratulations on persevering through the ups and downs of this season. And we'll look forward to be hopefully talking playoff basketball with you and the squad next week. First things first, though, get that dub tonight. Thanks for your time as always.
Thank you, Hustler. We appreciate Winnipeg Sports Talk and can't wait for tonight.
All right. Thanks to Coach Taylor. Good luck to the Sea Bears tonight. Again, should be a great crowd. If you haven't checked out a game, get out there tonight. They're going into the Upper Bowl. And then after the game, head on down to the beer can. They'll have a bear pong and hopefully a big celebration for a big win over Calgary that will book the Sea Bears officially in the CEBL playoffs. Let's get to the Coolbet lines for today. And I saw Yin Vivian in chat. What's up, Yin? Asking about props for Canada at the Paris Olympics. And of course, our friends at Coolbet have them. The total gold medals for Canada at the Paris Olympics is at 6.5. The over -114, under -120. Total medals for Canada is 22.5 with the over -114. The team most likely, USA -588 for most gold medals. So that seems like that's pretty much a lock. The only other country that seemingly by the odds has a chance is China. at plus 415. Then you have to go, Great Britain is 74-1. France 89-1. Japan 109. 250 for the Netherlands, 300 for Australia and Germany, 500 for Italy, and 2,000-1 for Canada. And 4,000-1 for most medals for Canada. But the over-under for golds is 6.5. For medals for Canada is 22.5. And again, we'll be looking more closely at a number of the other sports when it comes to betting props on Coolbet as we go forward. The CFL odds are up now, and we do have a line in this Rider Alouette game, and it certainly looks like, Remis, it's going to be the battle of the backups, Paterson and Evans. And the Alouettes are a 3-point favorite against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Tell you what, I think I'm taking Saskatchewan in that game. Given it both, listen, both have good defenses, but the SAS defense has been so good. I know it's a long flight, but maybe it's just because the recency bias is there, and the Bombers only scored 9 points against that defense last week. I'm giving them the nod. Calgary's a 1-point favorite in Ottawa. The Bombers are technically a 1-point underdog, but at minus 120. It is a pick 'em, straight up, even minus 110 on both sides of the money line for the Bombers and the Argos. And then the final game is the Elks and the Ticats, and the Elks are 3-point favorites at home, looking to get their first win of the season after the Ticats did that exact feat last week, getting to 1-5, beating their arch rivals, the Toronto Argonauts. And let's take a quick look at this Sea Bears line tonight. Calgary comes in as a 2-point favorite. Total for the game is 179.5. And the money line, just to win the game, Sea Bears plus 105, Calgary minus 139. CEBL outrights right now. Could the Winnipeg Sea Bears, who are the heavy favorites to begin the season, Sea Bears are already down there 8 out of 9 teams, 25-1. Why not us? This is the time to get in on the Sea Bears, I think. Vancouver's minus 714 to win the West. Niagara River Lions, the favorite to win the championship at plus 150. Vancouver plus 245. Edmonton 5-1. Calgary plus 740. Sea Bears 25-1. They're your Coolbet lines. Oh, I should mention, we do have a little double play from the lock shop today. And I apologize to everyone. I took the Brewers yesterday. They lost to the Cubs. Meanwhile, Patty dropped 2 amazing player props that cashed. We're back at it with the double play today. I'm going with the phenom Paul Skeens. The Pirates are taking on the Cardinals. Skeens' strikeout prop is 7.5 for hitting over. He strikes everybody out. And Dusty's got the Astros in Oakland against the Athletics. That one, when we put it in, was plus 215. The kind folks at Coolbet have boosted that up to plus 337, and that's on the combo card right at the top of the main page. You'll see the double play parlay, and while we're at it, I'm riding with the Pirates on the run line today, minus 1.5 at plus 112. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And don't forget, if you're making any CFL bets this week, screen cap them, send them into contest at winnipegsportstalk.com for your chance to get a marble in our marble race that will determine who is coming to the Labor Day Classic on the 1930 Crew Tour with myself for Bombers Riders come Labor Day. Again, contest at winnipegsportstalk.com for your chance to qualify for that. By the way, if you were thinking about, if you've been kind of humming and hawing about coming to Labor Day, join us on that trip. There's limited availability right now. They're determining whether they're going to have an extra bus. So would love to get you locked in right now. Go to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at the 1930, the 1930 crew for all the details on it. It is going to be really fun. A great group of people already put together for it, but they want to fill that up and fill that second bus as well. So join us. Transport from Winnipeg to Regina and back, 2 nights hotel, tickets to the Labor Day Classic, all sorts of little perks as well with the crew. So would love to see you there again. The 1930 crew, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, book it and join us when the Bombers go in and right the wrongs of last week and beat the Riders again in Mosaic. All right, Remo, tonight is our winners' night from the big event, the 2 weeks of our viewers picking winners. Congrats to Joey Panks and Cowboy and Greg and Donnie Boy, who will all be joining us tonight. I'm looking forward to it, but we got to get into these picks. Now, because I'm set up, I can't log in. So if you want, get the HPI bet up on the screen if you can. In race number 2. So I don't know. Do you have anything in race number 1?
Yeah, just 1 second here. Let me. I don't have race 1. I just have race 2.
Perfect. All right. So tonight we'll be there. We're gonna get down on that prime rib buffet, which I'm looking forward to because I haven't eaten anything yet today, and hanging out with the crew. And I'm actually gonna go. I'm going to go with a few triactors today on these picks, and then when I get there, I'll use cold hard cash to make a few win bets and whatnot. We're going to go a little harder tonight because of the great hospitality of our friends at Assiniboia Downs. So anyways, race number 2, I like number 6. How do I not bet on Starship Chewbacca? So we're going to go 6 to win. And what's number 7? Is that Cloud Art or what is
Ghost
that?
Art.
Oh, Ghost Art.
25 to 1.
Yeah, I don't know why I like Ghost Art, and I might add an exactor box 6-7, but 6 is my pick. Starship Chewbacca for race number 2.
Yeah, I'm going Starship Chewbacca, my Noah exacta box 5-6. That's mine.
Perfect. All right. Race number. I'm not going again until 4.
I got race 3, a 1-3 exacta box. Welcome to Hollywood, a massive favorite, and I don't even think I needed to box this because of that, but I'm playing it safe here. I don't want to be in a situation where it's like, I should have boxed it for whatever. With G, I'm Foxy. This is a 1-3 box, so massive favorite here. Welcome to Hollywood with horse 3, GM Foxy.
Right on. Okay, race number 4. This is my first triactor box. I'm going the 4-5-8. So 4-5-8 for this one. Again, it's so small on this. I'm having a tough time seeing it. But 4, 5, and 8. Ice Storm, I know, is number 8. That is the favorite. 5 is the second favorite. And we're going to jump on 4 to try to get in there ahead of number 3. So 4-5-8 triactor in race number 4.
Okay, I actually have the same one. I guess we were both agreeing with the AI smart pick, grabbing Moonman rules there. So sorry.
Moonman.
Sorry I didn't mean to block you.
That's okay.
On this one. I know you're trying to catch up to me. I'm not just going to try to steal your picks and block you.
That's fine. Sometimes it happens. Race 5, I'm going 4-5-6. On a triactor. Maybella has been great. Dazzling Gold is awesome. And Mechanic Susie seems to be a fave. So we're going to go right in the sweet spot of the lineup. 4-5-6 for race number 5.
Yeah, I'm not on race 5. My next one's 7.
Okay. And 6, I may actually have to take one of these out, depending if I put that exacta. But as of right now, I'm planning on a 4-6-8 triactor. Really slow. A favorite of ours. Number 6 is, which is 6?
6 is Rail Splitter.
Oh, Rail Splitter for sure. And then maybe Sweetie?
Maybe sometime.
So 4-6-8 for race number 6.
And then I'm on race 7, just going with a longer shot. Cool Cross to win. It's just throwing a dart there.
Me too. $2 on Club Champ.
Yeah.
Number two. We like that one. So we'll get those in. I may actually hammer race 5, 6. And one of these, I'm not sure which one is going to be the WST race. So we're going to get down into the winner's circle at some point tonight. Hopefully as winners ourselves. So huge thanks to Assiniboia Downs, Sherry, and the great staff there. Congratulations to the winners. Look forward to seeing you all tonight at Assiniboia Downs. Also want to thank James, Ange, and the great people at Canadian Club. Holy smokes, were they busy. I mentioned they were sponsoring the Stampede, Super Spike, and the Comedy Festival on the week. I didn't make it out to the Stampede. I did spend the day Saturday at Super Spike, and Canadian Club was everywhere. Man, they did an incredible job at the VIP section, including that. Remis, did James tell you about that stationary bike that they have? Yes. Which you mixes a margarita?
Yes.
I did it. The margarita was great. Those pre-mixed margaritas, phenomenal. But anyways, it was a very fun way to mix that sucker. But the VIP section, they were the VIP sponsor there as well, was so good. And then a lot of CC and Gingers enjoyed by folks at Bill Burr on Saturday night. I can tell you that. Our two great sponsors, Little Brown Jug and Canadian Club, basically took over the comedy festival. And I heard today the attendance for that, Remis, exceeded 30,000 for the 3 days.
Awesome.
So that I said probably 10 on Saturday because that was the one sold out. I think it was probably closer to 12 or 13 at Assiniboia Park. But it was just a phenomenal event. It's coming back next year, and I can't wait to do it again. Hopefully I'm going to try to get to a few more shows as opposed to just the one that we did last year. But again, huge thanks to Canadian Club, official spirit of the Bombers. We got to wait till next week to enjoy CC and Gingers and Canadian Club at the stadium, but it's waiting for you right now with all the Beam Suntory products at your local Manitoba liquor marts. Folks, that's going to do it for us. Been a bit of a roller coaster today for us with the on location with myself at HQ, but we got through it. Thanks so much to everyone that hung out with us until the end of the show. Good luck to, it says race 2 is the WST race. All right, well, we better get some winners for that. Thank you, Donnie boy. We'll be jumping in on that. But to our winners, we'll see you tonight, 6:30 at the Clubhouse Dining Room. And hopefully have some stories of some big wins tomorrow when we get back from the track and get back to it. We are reaching out for some Olympic guests to sort of preview some of the events that many of us aren't too familiar with. Hoping we can get a breaking guest. We're reaching out to Strizzy, who I believe is going to be doing the commentary on the breaking. But basketball, soccer, rugby sevens, all of that coming up. And we will Thursday. We'll have the Olympic basketball preview. Kirby Shep, head coach of the Bisons, who has coached probably about half of the Canadian team as juniors when he was with the Team Canada coaching staff for many years. Cannot wait to have Kirby on. So we're going to have that coming up on Thursday. But more Bomber talk as the team practices, getting ready for the Argos. Little NHL offseason, Olympics. And, of course, we'll recap tonight's big Sea Bears game and let you know what the story is for the Seabs as they hit the road for their final 2 games of the regular season. Whether you're at Canada Life Center tonight, whether you are at Assiniboia Downs or taking it all in from home, have a great one. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to all the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen every day. And we will see you tomorrow, 1 p.m., live on YouTube, right here on WST. Shout out to our podcast listeners. We'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.